The fascinating continent is home to ancient cultures, a diverse range of flora and fauna, and some of the world's most stunning natural and archaeological wonders. Over the years, scientists have discovered some incredible and terrible things on the Australian continent. Join us as we discover and learn more about Australia, the home of the kangaroos and koalas. Number 10, the Merry Man. The Merry Man, also known as Stewart's Giant, is a contemporary hieroglyph. Trix Smith, a charter pilot, discovered it during an overflight in 1998. The pilot was flying between Moore and Cooper Pedy when he noticed a massive hieroglyph on the ground below. The Merry Man is an artwork of an indigenous Aboriginal man hunting with either a stick or a boomerang. A hieroglyph is located around 60 kilometers outside of Murray Township, on a plateau at Completed Springs. Surprisingly, the Merry Man is located just outside the Woomera prohibited area, covering approximately 127,000 square kilometers. The figure stands 2.7 kilometers tall and has a 28-kilometer radius. It is one of the largest geoglyphs on the planet, with the Sahama lines being the only ones that are larger than the Merry Man. So far, the origins of this Merry Man hieroglyph are a closely guarded secret, known only to the individual who created it. No one has claimed responsibility for this creation, and no eyewitnesses have reported seeing it being produced. Scientists are still baffled as to how these gigantic hieroglyphs were created without being spotted. The Merry Man is also known as Steve Giant after the infamous explorer John McDougall Stewart, who sent many anonymous faxes to the media in 1998 as a press release. These were the ones who made the Merry Man famous. The Australian government decommissioned the property after native title claimants in the vicinity threatened legal action. On July 16, 1998, a bizarre glass jar with a satellite image of the Merry Man, as well as a note with a U.S. flag and references to Branch Davidian, was discovered in a trough. Some experts believe this masterpiece was created by a Northern Territory artist from Alice Springs. His name was Bardius Goldberg, and he was famed for creating artwork that could be seen from space. He never verified or disputed the theory. The Merry Man is a spectacular structure, however. Till this day we can't be certain who created the fascinating Merry Man, but we hope science will be able to close this Australian mystery in the future. Number 9, venomous cone snails from Australia. The Great Barrier Reef in Queensland is home to around 133 species of venomous cone snails. National Geographic has dubbed them the underwater tank. They feed on fish, mollusks, and worms, with the more dangerous species inflicting catastrophic harm on people. The geography cone, or Conus geographicus, is a large cone snail that grows to be about 120 millimeters long. These are deadly but not very hostile to people. Cone snails are completely marine organisms that are frequently seen lying under stones, rubble, sand, and sometimes twisted in vegetation along the coast from Western Australia to southern Queensland. These snails use their proboscis, a long and movable appendage that contains a fatal harpoon laced with approximately 100 different neurotoxins. They hunt at night and use the proboscis to immobilize their victims. The sting initially feels like a bee sting, but things quickly worsen. The stung area experiences severe pain, tingling, and numbness. In severe situations, the person may experience difficulty speaking, double vision, and even respiratory paralysis. A cone snail sting necessitates prompt medical attention. There is currently no antivenom for cone snail poison. Divers and explorers should exercise caution when dealing with these dangerous creatures. It is amazing how inconspicuous these venomous snails look, and yet their sting can be so painful. We certainly hope you will never get in direct contact with this Australian species. Number 8, giant four-legged kangaroos discovered in Australia. The megafauna of Papua New Guinea prevailed long after humans arrived. A new study reveals that a big kangaroo that formerly roamed the Papua New Guinea highlands on four legs may have existed as recently as 20,000 years ago, long after large-bodied megafauna on mainland Australia became extinct. In order to learn more about Papua New Guinea's interesting natural history, paleontologists from Flinders University and archaeologists and geoscientists from the Australian National University re-examined megafauna bones from the rich Nam Rock Shelter fossil site in the Chimbu province. The study's new dating methods show that when humans first arrived in the Papua New Guinea highlands around 60,000 years ago, there were still numerous giant mammal species present, including the extinct thylacine and a marsupial that resembled a panda named Hilarium thomasettii. Surprisingly, 2 large extinct kangaroo species, one of which bounded on 4 legs rather than 2, may have survived for an additional 40,000 years in the region. If these megafaunal species did indeed survive in the Papua New Guinea highlands for much longer than their Australian equivalents, then it may have been because people only visited the area infrequently and in low numbers until after 20,000 years ago, says ANU Professor of Archaeological Science Tim Denham, co-lead author in the new study published in the journal Archaeology in Oceania. New Guinea is a forested mountainous northern part of the formerly more extensive Australian continent called Sahul, but our knowledge of its final human history is poor compared with that of mainland Australia, says Professor Denham, who initially undertook fieldwork in the Papua New Guinea highlands in 1990. According to Flinders University Paleontology Laboratory co-author Professor Gavin Prideaux, the latest NAM study is consistent with similar evidence from Kangaroo Island, previously produced by Flinders paleontologists, which also suggests megafaunal kangaroos may have persisted to around 20,000 years ago in some of the continent's less accessible areas. Many broad assumptions regarding megafaunal extinction timescales, he claims, have been more destructive than helpful. Although it is often assumed that all of the megafaunal species in Australia and New Guinea became extinct coast to coast by 40,000 years ago, this generalization is not based on very much actual evidence, says Professor Prideaux. It is probably more harmful than helpful in resolving exactly what happened to the dozens of large mammals, birds, and reptiles that were living on the continent when people first arrived. It is fascinating to think about these giant and terrifying megafauna animals roaming the Sahul-Australian continent alongside the first humans who are probably responsible for their demise. However, we can certainly be glad those giant 4-legged kangaroos are not roaming around in Australia and Papua New Guinea anymore.
Number 7. First true millipede discovered. A new species with more than 1,000 legs has been found deep underground in Australia. This week's issue of Scientific Reports features the finding of the first millipede with more than 1,000 legs. Previously, no millipede with more than 750 legs had been discovered. American colleagues discovered the millipede 60 meters below in a mineral exploration drill hole in Australia's Eastern Goldfields province. It possesses 1,306 legs, more than any other animal, and is the first member of a new species known as humbertypes Persephone star. The millipede gets its name from the Greek prefix eu, the Latin word mill, and the Greek goddess of the underworld, Persephone. According to species relationships, humbertypes Persephone is distantly related to the former record holder for the most legs, Ilacme plenipes a Californian millipede species. According to the scientists, the vast number of segments and legs that have evolved in both species may allow them to generate pushing forces that allow them to pass through tight gaps in the soil environments in which they inhabit. The findings highlight the Eastern Goldfields province's biodiversity. To reduce the impact of mining on *E Persephone in this region, the authors recommend that efforts be made to conserve its underground habitat. Number 6. The Gympie tree. This plant appears to be an innocuous bush, yet it is a proud and vicious member of the Urticaceae family of nettles. It takes its name from the Australian town of Gympie, and the name is derived from the Gympie people's indigenous language. It is indigenous to the rainforests of northeastern Australia. The plant grows predominantly in clearings and along creekways and footpaths. It is a highly poisonous plant with leaves that can cause one of the most agonizing stings on the planet. Unfortunately, there is no antidote for this lethal sting. It's not simply excruciatingly unpleasant, it also has a super long lifespan. People who are stung by this monster may suffer for years. Many people have even committed suicide to escape the intolerable anguish. From a distance, the bush looks like any other plant, but because of the plant's soft, fuzzy appearance, many people believe it is unobtrusive and even harmless. A single brush with its leaves, on the other hand, will give you immense grief and regret. The discomfort caused by the Gympie tree has been characterized as being electrified while being burned with hot acid at the same time. Nobody knows when the anguish will end. Once it begins, it may take months or even years for the pain to subside. The shrubs can typically reach a height of 3 meters. The plant's heart-shaped leaves have serrated edges, and microscopic filaments on the stem and leaves contain the poison that causes agony in your body. Each filament has a small bulb containing the poison, which readily breaks off and becomes trapped in human flesh. To say the least, the anguish it produces is legendary. A.C. Macmillan, a road surveyor from North Queensland, reported his packhorse being stung by the plant in 1866. The poor animal went insane from pain and died after only 2 hours. Ernie Ryder is another unfortunate man who came into contact with the Gympie tree in 1963. The plant slapped him across the face, arms, and chest. According to Ernie, it seemed like a massive set of hands were attempting to crush his chest. For a few days, the pain was unbearable, and he couldn't do even the most basic tasks. But it gradually improved. However, the sting lasted about 2 years and hurt every time he took a cold shower. In severe situations, the lymph nodes beneath your arms may bulge and throb terribly for 1 to 24 hours. Researchers discovered that the Gympie poison is heat-resistant and chemically stable, which means that even centuries-old dried-out preserved samples in a museum are still harmful and can sting you. You better hope you never come into contact with this extremely dangerous plant because there is still no antidote that can save you from it. Number 5. First hybrid sharks discovered near Australia. Sharks are generally portrayed in blockbuster films as bloodthirsty villains, but in reality, they are far more fascinating and complicated than they are in popular culture. Scientists believe sharks have existed for more than 400 million years, long before dinosaurs, based on fossilized teeth and scales. The top predators in the ocean have evolved into over 500 species that vary in size, color, diet, and behavior. Sharks, like rays and skates, belong to the Elasmobranchii subclass of fish. This subclass's skeletons are formed of cartilage rather than bone, and they have 5 to 7 gill slits on each side of their heads, as opposed to most other fish, which only have 1 gill slit on each side, used to filter oxygen from the water. Whale sharks, the world's largest fish species, can grow to be more than 55 feet long, whereas dwarf lantern sharks are only 8 inches long. Sharks are formidable predators with mouths lined with numerous rows of individual teeth that fall out and grow back on a regular basis. Their teeth vary in size and shape, from serrated to triangular like a spear. Sharks can be found in both deep and shallow areas around the world, with some moving long distances to spawn and feed. Some species are solitary, while others congregate in varied degrees. Lemon sharks, for example, have been observed socializing in groups. Scientists are still trying to figure out how long sharks live and have only investigated a subset of shark species ages. The Greenland shark is the world's longest living animal, living for 272 years. The majority of sharks eat small fish and crustaceans, although some larger species prey on seals, sea lions, and other marine animals. A shark's menu does not include humans, even though shark attacks have increased steadily since 1900, as a result of better monitoring and a growing human population. They are still extremely rare. A beachgoer's chances of being bitten are 1 in 11.5 million. Sharks bite humans out of curiosity, to protect themselves against a perceived threat, or to confuse a human for prey. Sharks have had millions of years of evolution to perfect their predator form, and now sharks are becoming even more specialized, presumably in an attempt to better adapt to ocean temperatures. Researchers have discovered 57 hybrid sharks off the coast of Australia for the first time. These offspring of 2 genetically separate species are a remarkable and previously unknown discovery. Researchers discovered around 60 sharks that were the result of interbreeding between 2 species: common blacktip sharks, Carcahynus limbatus*, and Australian blacktip sharks, Carcahynus tilstoni*, along a 1,200-mile stretch of Australia's eastern coastline. Finding 1 or 2 would have been amazing, but finding 57 proved that it was not a fluke. What prompted this unexpected interbreeding of shark species? These hybrid sharks may have evolved as a result of the need to keep up with rising ocean temperatures. The smaller Australian blacktip shark now inhabits tropical waters in the north, while the bigger common blacktip shark prefers subtropical and temperate regions. This could simply be another example of evolution, a response of one of the ocean's top predators to climate change.
Number 4, thought to be extinct for 80 years, scientists rediscovered a unique insect. Once thought to be extinct on Lord Howe Island's main island, the wood-feeding cockroach was discovered at the base of a lone banyan tree. A biology student at the University of Sydney discovered a gigantic, wingless, wood-eating cockroach that had been thought to be extinct since the 1930s and is only found on Australia's Lord Howe Island. For the first 10 seconds or so, I thought, no, that can't be, said Maxim Adams, an honours student at the University of Sydney School of Biological Sciences, under Professor Nathan Lowe. I mean, I raised the first rock beneath this enormous banyan tree, and there it was. They spotted families of them all beneath this one banyan tree, said senior scientist Nicholas Carlisle of the NSW Department of Planning and Environment, who was exploring North Bay with Adams. In reality, Maxim and Nathan stayed for the rest of the week, searching under every other banyan in North Bay but finding nothing. The rare Lord Howe Island wood-feeding cockroach, which was once prevalent throughout the archipelago, was thought to have gone extinct until rats arrived in 1918. Over the next few decades, searches turned up dispersed groups of distant cousins on two tiny offshore islands. The rediscovered group, however, is genetically separate from them. The survival of this species is fantastic news because it has been more than 80 years since it was last seen, said Lord Howe Island Board Chair Atticus Fleming. This discovery was made in July 2022. Lord Howe Island is a truly remarkable area. It is older than the Galapagos Islands and home to 1,600 native invertebrate species, half of which are found nowhere else on the planet. These cockroaches are almost like our very own version of Darwin's finches, separated on little islands over thousands or millions of years, developing their own unique genetics. Although they are not adorable and cuddly, cockroaches perform an important part in the island's ecosystem by recycling nutrients, expediting wood degradation, and providing food for other species, he added. As a result, experts have been researching the feasibility of returning them from the offshore islets to the main island. They don't have to anymore. There is still so much to learn, said Professor Lowe, head of the School of Life and Environmental Sciences Molecular Ecology, Evolution, and Phylogenetics Lab. We hope to learn more about how they survive by studying their habitat, behavior, and genetics through additional trials on the island. The wingless cockroach is 20 to 40 millimeters long and has a metallic body that ranges from reddish to black in hue. These wood cockroaches are powerful burrowers that reside inside and feed on decaying logs. In rainforests and open forests in northern and eastern Australia, 11 different species of wood-feeding cockroaches are found. These cockroaches have particular microorganisms in their intestines that aid in the digestion of cellulose and wood. Females give birth to nymphs, who live in families alongside the adults. However, these distinctive arthropods behave differently and may have been misnamed. Despite their common name implying that they are wood-feeding cockroaches that burrow in rotting logs, it is now believed they are more like rock roaches, with rocks forming an important component of their habitat. This is possibly due to their coevolution alongside the ground-foraging Lord Howe Island wood cockroaches. The research was led by the University of Sydney in collaboration with the NSW Department of Planning and Environment. It is amazing that this fascinating Australian species was rediscovered on Lord Howe Island after being deemed extinct for 80 years. Number 3. Horizontal falls. These natural phenomena, known as Garrangotten by the local Indigenous people, are a remarkable occurrence near the coast of Australia's Kimberley region. Sir David Attenborough has described them as Australia's most peculiar natural wonder. The falls are caused by extremely strong tidal shifts that compress the two narrow breaks along the Kimberley coastline. When the tide changes, seawater rushes through two short, narrow canyons, only 300 meters apart. As a result of the tidal shifts, a waterfall forms with water building up on one or both sides of the gap. During high tides, as much as 1 million gallons of water per second pass through the gap, creating a 13-foot waterfall. These horizontal falls are unique, as the flow can reverse when the tide changes. This makes it one of the most dangerous currents in the world. Number 2. Scientists discover the largest plant on Earth. Scientists in Australia believe they have unearthed the world's largest plant, which is estimated to be at least 4,500 years old. Researchers from the University of Western Australia and Flinders University discovered a remarkable seagrass, Posidonia australis, that stretches 112 miles, 180 kilometers, in the shallow seas of Shark Bay, a World Heritage Area in Western Australia. This single plant, or clone, is the largest known plant on Earth, covering 200 square kilometers of the area. The plant's ability to spread over such a large area and thrive in harsh conditions is due to its genes, which are well suited to the variable environment of Shark Bay. Researchers are conducting experiments to learn more about how this ancient plant survives and thrives in its challenging environment. Number 1. The owl rediscovered species. The final entry on our list of terrifying new discoveries in Australia is the rediscovery of a species thought to be extinct, the black-naped pheasant pigeon. This rare and elusive bird was last seen by scientists in 1882, with only 2 specimens known to science. It was presumed extinct, but locals on Ferguson Island in Papua New Guinea reported sightings over the years. Despite this, the species was thought to have vanished due to habitat loss, and it was listed as critically endangered. In an incredible turn of events, a team of scientists from the Papua New Guinea National Museum, the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and the American Bird Conservancy spent a month on Ferguson Mountain setting up camera traps to gather data on the bird's population. On the final days of their trip, the researchers discovered that the elusive bird had been captured on camera, filmed at 3,200 feet up a ridge. The moment was a profound one for ornithologists and wildlife scientists who had dedicated their careers to searching for the species. Jordan Boersma, a member of the team, recognized the bird in the footage and shared the discovery with his colleagues. This moment was a culmination of years of work, and their reaction was filled with genuine joy and astonishment. This rediscovery has rekindled hope for the survival of the black-naped pheasant pigeon, but it still faces threats from the ongoing reduction in its forest habitat, making it one of the most significant and surprising discoveries in the region. The black-naped pheasant pigeon remains critically endangered, and efforts to protect its habitat are vital for its future survival.